What is going on, everyone? This is Connor, the co-host with the most, and welcome back to the Clutch Crew Sports YouTube channel. And we're back here with another NHL weekly update. We're going to be looking at games 1 and 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, as well as games 1 through 3 of the Western Conference Finals. And so far, only one team in each series has actually won a game. Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, recording this on June 5th. At 8 o'clock tonight will be Game 3 at Amalie Arena in Tampa. So far, but let's look at games 1 and 2. The New York Rangers are up 2-0 in the series, which, if you watch my predictions video, this is what I said would happen. I said the Rangers would win the first 2 games, but then I predicted that the Lightning would win the next 4 and win the series in 6 games. So far it's going the way I predicted. Tampa did look very rusty in game 1. Another thing that I thought would happen, because they had been off for like a week and a half, because they had swept the Florida Panthers and the Rangers went to 7 games with the Hurricanes. So the Lightning basically came out and looked like a team that hadn't played in a week and a half, got absolutely decimated and destroyed, got outskated. Especially, it was pretty even in the first period. It was 1-1 after the first period. Kreider got a goal super early for the Rangers. Stamkos came back, but it all kind of fell apart in the second period onwards. It was 2-2 at one point, but then from that point, the Rangers scored 4 unanswered goals and were able to win 6-2, making the MSG crowd very happy. The shots were pretty even. It was just a good performance also from Igor Shesterkin. Tampa had 39 shots, the Rangers had 34. Just a good performance from Shesterkin, not as good from Vasilevsky, which definitely not something I expected. I expected Vasilevsky to be better, but like I said, the team hadn't played in a week and a half, and the Rangers were riding high after dominating that Game 7 against the Hurricanes. So the Rangers were definitely riding a wave of momentum. But both teams also haven't really been able to get anything going on the power play this series. Zibanejad had a power play goal for the Rangers in the third period. And then quickly looking ahead to Game 2, the Lightning do have one power play goal with Kucherov, but neither power play is really dominated so far, not the way that the Rangers power play kind of dominated the Hurricanes. Game 2 was a lot closer. The Lightning definitely figured out what they were doing. They had that goal with Kucherov early on. The Rangers came back with 2 more, and then the Rangers were able to get a 2-goal lead early in the third. The Lightning were able to get a goal back after pulling the goalie late in the third period, but they couldn't get that third one to send it to overtime. But still a much better performance for the Lightning. One interesting thing, too, actually, was that this was the first time, and I think it was 18 games, Vasilevsky had gone 18 games in a row that when he lost a playoff game, he won the next one. So I think this is the first, I think it was 18. The Rangers finally broke that on Vasilevsky, but they're headed back to Amalie Arena. Like I said, the shots were pretty even again in this game. The Lightning were definitely in it. 31 for the Lightning, 28 for the Rangers. So, I think more so in this one maybe than the first game. That home crowd really brought the Rangers home. MSG is a really tough place to play. But I'm definitely thinking that the Tampa Bay Lightning should be able to, with a full house at Amalie Arena, get back on track and win the next 4 games. Shesterkin's going to have to keep it up for the Rangers. I said both teams are going to have to find their power play for sure. The Lightning, they definitely need the power play is a huge part for both of these teams. The Lightning are definitely missing Braden Point when it comes to their power play, but they still have Kucherov and Hedman and Stamkos to score power play goals for them. So it's definitely not something that they can't do. But the Lightning are definitely going to have to get it going here. Like I said, I'm going to stick with my original prediction when it comes to this, saying that the Lightning are going to win the next 4 games and win it in 6 games. The Lightning have proved they can win on the road. In that scenario, they only need to win 1 game on the road, and that would be Game 5 up at MSG. Vasilevsky knows how to peak at the right time of the playoffs. But the Rangers, especially Mika Zibanejad has really been hot as of late. Their big 3 are getting it going. Definitely need to see more goals from Tampa's big players. In the past couple of games, Kreider and Zibanejad and Fox have been involved on a lot of these goals. Artemi Panarin also got a goal. But if you look at the Lightning's goals, Stamkos only has 1, Palat only has 1, and Kucherov only has 1. Nothing from Hedman, nothing from Alex Killorn, none of the other big names, nothing from Corey Perry, who had been doing really good on the power play as of late. And especially given that, the Lightning only had 1 power play opportunity in Game 1, but they definitely had more power play opportunities in game 2. So, they only had one in game 2, but they had more in game 1, so they need to take advantage. Their penalty kill did really well in game 2. The Rangers had 4 power plays, and they managed to turn away all 4 power plays. So, if the Lightning can keep that up, and if they can keep up, the style of play that they have been, they know how to shut down good offenses. It was evidenced in that series against the Panthers that they can shut down good offenses. So, looking for good things out of the Tampa Bay Lightning going forward. Moving to the other side of the bracket in the Western Conference Finals, the Colorado Avalanche, 3-0 ahead on the Edmonton Oilers. Now, this isn't like the NBA where no one's ever come back from being down 3-0, but it's looking pretty unlikely that the Edmonton Oilers are going to be able to come back in this series. I know there is potentially some discipline coming for the Edmonton Oilers as well. Evander Kane laid a dirty hit on Nazem Kadri. A lot of people were commenting on Twitter that was karma for all the stuff he'd been doing in the first series against St. Louis. But regardless of whether it was karma or not, the Evander Kane has a hearing today from the NHL League office. So we'll see if he gets any discipline. I mean, the league really hasn't been giving out discipline. They haven't given anything to Jacob Trouba at all. I forgot to mention him that, they haven't given a single disciplinary action to him, despite the facts that, he laid hits on Crosby and Seth Jarvis and all that stuff that, not really good looking hits, but they still didn't give out any discipline. So who's to say? It seems like they want to side with the officials on the ice. The officials on the ice didn't take Evander Kane out of the game. They let him still play. So I'm assuming that the league office is probably going to stick with that. And, whether you think he should be removed or not, I think Evander Kane will be playing in game 4. Unfortunately for the Oilers, I'm not sure that's really going to matter for them. Game 1 was very similar to their game 1 against Calgary. Just a huge offensive display. Both teams, kind of following that same trend that I've talked about with the West, no defense and no goaltending. That's pretty much what game 1 was. 8-6 win for the Colorado Avalanche. Just scoring from everywhere. I mean, it's amazing that all but 2 of these goals were even strength goals too. 1 power play goal each for both teams. But normally when a team gets 8 goals, you figured that they would have at least 2 or 3 power play goals in there. But no, it was 1 power play goal and 7 even strength goals. 6 even strength goals. One of them was an empty netter, so don't really count that one. But a big performance for the Colorado Avalanche. They almost let the Oilers back into the game because the Avalanche were up 7-3. The Oilers were able to close it to 7-6, but the Avalanche were able to clear it out. McDavid did all he could, but that's something that is definitely coming through right now in this series as we move ahead to game 2. A 4-0 shutout win for the Colorado Avalanche. Just not really hearing anything much from Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the 2 big stars for the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid's got 2 goals in the series. He had a goal in game 1 and he had a goal in game 3, but 0 goals so far for Leon Draisaitl, who led the league in goals at the end of the year. So it's definitely not something that the Oilers can afford to have. They can't afford to have Draisaitl not scoring. McDavid's going to get his points. He had a couple goals along with a few assists, but Draisaitl's been absent, and they really can't afford to have Draisaitl be absent in this game, especially in a game where you're getting shut out 4-0. You need your stars to step up. It's something that teams like the Hurricanes and the Dallas Stars really struggled from. They don't have that one superstar that can really kind of take over and get goals when you need them. And the Oilers have 2 of them. And the fact that neither of them were able to get goals and put up any points is not a good sign for them. The other problem for the Edmonton Oilers that they've been facing is penalty problems. Now, in the first game, the penalty minutes were split evenly at 4. So, very clean game. Officials weren't calling much. I mean, when you have an offensive explosion like this, it's just, not really a whole lot of dirty things going on. Just a very clean game, 4 penalty minutes each, 2 penalties. But if you take a look at the penalty minute differential in games 2 and game 3, 6 for the Avalanche, 16 for the Oilers in game 2, and then in game 3, 4 for the Avalanche and 23 penalty minutes for the Edmonton Oilers. Definitely, it's kind of mirroring in a way something that was going on with the Carolina Hurricanes, in that the Oilers just can't seem to stay out of the box. The only difference is that even when the Hurricanes were getting in the box, they could still find ways to win the games. The Oilers are not winning the games. And also when the penalty minutes are this skewed, I mentioned that McDavid and Draisaitl really haven't been that great. That takes more time for them. They're not on the ice as much, especially Draisaitl. McDavid, he does go out there for penalty kills, but it keeps Draisaitl off the ice, and it keeps the um, big stars for the Edmonton Oilers off the ice, and keeps them from scoring goals. Now, if I had to say what's going to happen going forward, I do think that the Edmonton Oilers can win Game 4. I don't know if it'll happen. Especially just the fact that their goaltending is probably the worst. Is actually, I would argue for sure that it's the worst goaltending left in the playoffs. Darcy Kemper is not exactly fantastic, but he's definitely better than Mike Smith. And then, of course, on the other side, Vasilevsky and Igor Shesterkin are two of the best in the league. So he's not going to compete with them. So um, it's definitely a typical situation for the Oilers. You never want to see your season come to an end like this in the conference finals. It happened to me with the Hurricanes a few years ago. They took out the Capitals in that great 7-game series in the first round, and then they swept the Islanders in round 2 and gave everybody hope that we were going to go far, and then we proceeded to go and get swept by the Bruins in the conference finals. So, kind of similar thing that's happening to the Oilers here. They went 7 games with the LA Kings, which, they were expected to beat the Kings in the first place, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But then the fact that they went and took out Calgary in 5 games, a team that no one, I'm sure there were people that thought they could win it, but the majority were definitely going for Calgary. And now just to come out and have the potential of possibly getting swept in the Western Conference Finals is not a good look for the Edmonton Oilers. So I'm sure the Avalanche will appreciate the rest if they can get it. Like I said, at the very least, I think this series will go 5 at most. I think the Oilers probably will win Game 4. They're going to come out hungry and want to win, but by the time they go back to Colorado, I say Colorado's going to win Game 5 and take this series in 5 games. Definitely not something I expected at the start. Like I said the Avalanche would win in 6, but given the potential that they have to win it in 5 or even 4, not something I thought was going to happen. So, definitely a tough road ahead. The Avalanche look like they're going to be the ones that have the rest going into the Stanley Cup Finals. Unless something drastic happens. Like I said, it has happened before that a team has come back from being down 3-0 in the NHL, but it's only happened 4 times in the entire history of the playoffs. So, not looking very good for the Oilers, especially given that horrible Game 2 performance they had on the road. Makes me not confident that they're going to win Game 5 on the road, if they even win Game 4. So, definitely, like I said, I think that's going to go 5. I'm expecting good things out of the Tampa Bay Lightning. We shall see, but I will be back at the end of next week, depending on how these series go. If I'm assuming that this series, the Western Conference series, will be done by the time we get to the end of next week. I'd be really surprised if it wasn't. But depending on how the East Finals goes, I'll either be back with another weekly update, or I'll be back with my predictions for the Stanley Cup Finals, depending on how this goes. When I can look at the schedule here. So Game 3 obviously is tonight. 6:14. When is that? That is a little bit past the weekend. So that's Tuesday. So yeah. So if the series is going to go 7 games, and it doesn't look like there's any way that it's going to be resolved, then I'll be back with another weekly update. If not, I'll be making my Stanley Cup Finals predictions. But of course, thanks guys so much for watching. Subscribe to the Clutch Crew Sports YouTube channel. Leave any comments down below. Like the video. Really helps with the algorithm. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Clutch Crew Sport. And leave any questions you have down below. And I will see you guys again next week for the next video. Say bye, Floof. Bye. Can't say no to this cute face.